thing yet. So
I'll talk to her again. I've messaged her so many times because several people got back to me saying they couldn't get it either, which is a bit annoying because she promised. And mine's been upgraded, which is great. But I'm like, yeah, but the people I sent you should be upgraded too.
well, it wasn't just me. I won't feel picked on.
It wasn't just you, no.
Well, hi, Barry. This is Going Solo Radio Network TV and podcast #1 Internet Singles Talk Network. Lucky
Indeed
us
it
that we get to be part of this. And this is Let's Talk About Dating with Christine and Barry. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine. Good to be here again for another fun episode.
Oh, well, and this is just full of all sorts of different avenues that we can take about how long are you really willing to date them, man or woman? You know,
Right.
how long is really a good enough amount of time to see? How long do you put up with hard stuff? And it prompted me to go to my bookshelf because you and I are going to recommend some books on a future podcast. And I don't
We
know if
will.
it's going to, does it make everything backwards or you could see it,
That's
right?
fine. That's fine. You can see it,
So
yeah.
this is a book I recommend a lot. So it's Too Bad, Too Good to Leave, Too Bad to Stay.
Oof.
And it's all about this subject. Isn't it great? See, it's not a very
Right.
big book, but it
Right.
covers so many of these kinds of subjects that you and I are going to talk about. So yay.
I'm thinking like basically I'll just take the afternoon off and you can just read the book out for an
I'll
hour.
just read the book. Okay, chapter 1. Like Mr. Rogers, I'll just read to all of you. It'll be very
Right.
entertaining.
I mean, the point I want to make though on this topic, this overarching theme, is that oftentimes, well, there's a mix. For some people, there's this tendency to feel like they're test driving until they find something wrong, then they'll leave.
Mhm.
And then on the other side of the fence, there's people who, once they start dating, they'll never leave no matter what.
Yes.
So there's this range or this spectrum between like getting out, and staying in that we want to discuss. Like, what is the navigation? What do you do about that? You know?
Yes. And why? What is the reason why behind both of those extremes?
Right.
You know, are you just looking for faults? Are you looking for to break up with them before they break up with you? And how much are you really going to put up with? What is too bad to stay?
Well, one thing, another book I'll add to this one, since we're going to throw books, I don't have it on me physically.
Yeah.
I have an audio book on my phone, a book called Attached,
Oh,
which is about attachment styles. And even though there's more research since that book came out about, there's actually more versions of that. But two of the main attachment styles of the, let's just say the less than ideal ones, tie into this topic, because the thing is, the one about, you know, when you stop dating somebody, that will really come under the heading of the avoidant attached style.
yeah.
And then the people who basically want to stay in forever, they don't want to leave, they're the anxious attached style, because they want to stay in and be validated constantly.
Yeah.
So that overlays in a way for me. And it's funny because one of my peers, I guess I call her, she's a fellow coach, and she focuses primarily on attachment styles, on which I'll give props out about this, because she's always been talking about it. So it gets to the back of my radar now when I talk about what I already know and all the skills I have and all the stuff I've learned, to add that on top as another layer, because I'm going, oh yeah, I see how attachment styles do play into this. So anyway, to continue.
Yes. So what I think is going to be a real two-sided benefit to this talk today is learning about you and how you handle when it's not long enough and when it's been too long, is also to know what questions to ask the other person that you're meeting to find out if they have any of this going
Right.
on in extremes, because everybody has a little. I mean, I'm the best person to give people the benefit of the doubt, and I gave it too much. I was very much that when I was young and my first marriage, and then even in my first, I'd say 5 years of dating, because I didn't even know there was a different way to look at it. And then I talk to other people and I go, oh, you asked that kind of a question? Oh, you said that to put up a boundary? It was such a learning curve for me. And so now I still do give, you're innocent until proven yourself guilty. And I know what to look for, though. I know where my boundaries are. So we were talking about how I've gone on Facebook dating now. And one of the things I'm really clear about that I learned with my late husband is I don't want to live with a minor child again. It was fine
Don't
while I did it
don't, live,
with
don't want to live with a what child again?
a minor.
Oh,
And now I've decided I'm not sure I want to live with even over 18 kids, because what I'm looking for is somebody who has grown kids who have kids. That's my sweet spot.
oh, so you can visit but don't have to keep them.
Hmm.
Kind of, yeah.
I love the idea of family. So I've mentioned that my immediate family of origin all live in 3 different states. I need to Zoom or get on a plane to go see them. And I think it'd be
Right.
really lovely to have a family here, which is what I did when my late husband was alive. I had 2 stepkids, a daughter-in-law, stepdaughter-in-law, and 2 grandkids. I loved it. I loved having everybody over. I loved doing things with them. I liked going out with them. And I did learn that I'm not crazy about living with a kid. I
Right.
want them to have their own home. So that's one of the things I bring up, because it's amazing how people in our age group still have kids living with them, 18
Yep.
and over even. And I've learned that it's just not my thing. I like having my privacy with my partner. I like having my own home. I'm really happy to have them come and visit, and I'm happy to even have them come stay. Like the little kids would stay for the weekend, but I don't want to live with more than just my partner again. I'd like to live with somebody again. I'm not sure about getting married, but I don't want to have all these other peripheral people living. I think it's an okay boundary to have.
I think it actually is probably a recommended boundary to have personally. I mean, personally, I mean, and I'm looking. I'm just thinking about the relationships I was in with women who had kids. Um, one situation, there was custody with the ex-husband, so that was like some of the time, some of the time, and that was okay. But it was also interesting because there was a whole dynamic between the daughter and me because I wasn't the father, and so that became a stumbling block in the relationship I had with her mother. So that wasn't so good. The other relationship I was in with a woman with kids, she was a widow, and so there was another competition with some ex, and I think it was about 5 years after she was widowed when we got together, and the kids actually I became good friends with them, and that was easier. So it does have. What I'm saying is there are different variations and conditions,
Mm-hmm.
and for me, I would say yes. As most of the women I'm dating I have been dating on and off the last few months. These first date COVID rules allowing negotiation stuff. Um, the ones I've met in person, because yes, I am doing some remote dating through, well, not dating, but remote getting to know people through Zoom and stuff, that sort of thing. But the ones locally I've been out with kids, they've all been adult kids, and it's been okay because it's like if I was going to be with them, I don't mind visiting them. I just don't want to be with them all the time. So I understand how you feel.
Oh, it's and it was rough in the beginning with my stepdaughter, and then it got really good. I was so pleased that it got, because her brother's 20 years older. They came from different moms. So he and I were fine from the beginning. He had his own family. It was hard for her in the beginning, and I really understood that. But then it was wonderful. But now that I've done it, I'm happy to not do that again. I can
So,
check that off my list.
so question: do you still have connection with them since you've been since you've been widowed for now for a while? You
No,
drifted apart.
sadly, they did stop talking to me. It's very sad because as I said, I loved having this family in my life. But what I can glean as much as I can is that his son, my husband, was very much a hub of the family. And my son was both of them were just crushed when my husband died suddenly. And I've never thought that they find fault with me. In fact, everybody says he lived longer than they think he ever would have with his health condition because he was so happy with me. But I think my stepson's very mad at his dad being gone, and it doesn't feel right to be mad at him. So it's easier to be mad at me, which I
Yeah.
accept. But now my stepdaughter can't lose both these important men in her life. So she had to go along with him. So it's disappointing. I'm very sad about it. And I accept it that this is what's going on for them. And okay, there's nothing I can do about it. So now my goal is to become part of somebody else's family again.
Got
So
it.
what's interesting is even though on Facebook dating, my low range is 59, I have men in their younger 50s writing to me, which is very flattering. And boy, that is a question up front, because Facebook dating just says, do you have kids? Period. It doesn't say what age or if they live with you. So I just ask within my first couple communications with them, just curious, do you have minor children? And I'll tell you, most of them do in that age group.
Interesting.
So I say, I'm so sorry, I am so not the right person for you. And I have no qualms with them dating somebody else, but not me.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing. Part of this, I mean, to get back to the title of the show, this episode, that's very relevant, because the thing is, it's really getting clear up front. What is it you really want?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things you don't want. So before you even get to the point about how long until you stop dating them, know what you want before you even start dating.
Yeah.
Just to be
It can
transparent.
really help. It can help with that whole process of how long you're going to stay. Because what happens, and it did for me in the beginning before I learned how to stop doing this, was, oh, they're so cute.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be okay. Or I don't want to ask that question. You know, that hormone fog takes over. So I
Yeah.
think that's a lot of times when we get ourselves into places, it's one of the big reasons when we maybe shouldn't continue dating them, but the chemistry is amazing and the sex is amazing and they can
Right.
say a lot of the right things. And yet there's these core things that don't work for you. And it's very difficult to leave if you don't have your boundaries already set.
That is such a key. And it's interesting. I mean, because just to look from my own experience, I'm not on Facebook dating, because again, as we said offline, I don't have that feature on my app, so I'm able to do that. But I'm using other dating apps. But it's interesting because the attraction and connection I'm having with women I've met through other social media avenues, not through the dating function and not through dating apps, is stronger and healthier, because part of it is, yes, obviously you get to know each other better because you see pictures, videos, you get to communicate, et cetera, et cetera. But also that person's, I mean, I won't say their life, but certainly their situation is more visible through their social media profile than it is through the dating apps.
Mm-hmm.
In some ways, I find it's more beneficial to meet somebody non-romantically to start with, so to speak.
Yeah.
I mean, a couple of them I met through Clubhouse again. Clubhouse is this,
Mm-hmm.
we talked about before. Clubhouse is this audio app. So what you see is little profile pictures like a postage stamp. That's it. But when you talk to somebody, you get to know them better and their energy. And it's like, oh, let me go find out more about this person. And you start checking out their profile and you find out more that way. So the initial connection isn't by, wow, that's a cute picture. It's more about, oh, I like the way they talk,
Mm-hmm.
which is really interesting that way too. So the dating, the accidental aspect of Clubhouse, because it wasn't part of the process intentionally, I'm sure.
No, they don't build themselves as a dating app at all, I'm sure.
But I mean, there have been quite a few relationships that started out from Clubhouse. I know of a couple of them myself. Apparently there was a couple of weddings that came out of Clubhouse. So any platform is a platform. I mean, we talked about, I think we talked about it a couple of weeks ago about getting out and going to different environments to meet people versus just doing the dating apps. Well, being on different social media platforms can be the same thing when you're in this virtual world that we live in, not virtual world, but the virtual connections we have now, because we're not actually out mingling with people all the time. So the opportunities are much wider than just through the dating avenue of the dating apps.
Yeah.
So, but again, as we said, get back to the topic at hand. So, we're like, this is the topic. Let's go over here. This topic. Let's go over here.
I know. But they're so relevant. They really are relevant pieces.
Let's weave it back in again. It's like making a tapestry. But as you said as well, it's like, getting clear up front what you really want before you go into the dating process, whether it is through an app or social media or wherever it is, will save you so much time. And like you were saying, the fact you could communicate pretty clearly up front once you notice these guys didn't match you on that criteria, doesn't matter what else there is. You go, that's not going to work. I know that about myself. And that's part of the process, is really to know what you really want. You got to really start to learn about what you're about, what makes you tick, who you are. Because when you know that, your choices get easier.
Yes.
But a lot of people are so busy, and a lot of people I know are so busy out there looking for what they want and what they don't want, but they're not even sure who they really are, who's asking those questions, which is kind of like incomplete.
It's like a three-legged table that only has two legs, right? Because you need all those three things, don't you? I mean, those are really important elements about what do you want, what do you not want, and who are you? What do you bring to a relationship? Because once you've come clear about what it is you have to offer,
Mm-hmm.
you will stand, I have found for me, I stand up more for my boundaries, for the things that are essential and important to me. It makes me even more open to the people who have the same kind of thoughts and feelings about their life. I'm like, oh, yeah, I like that because it resonates with me because I've gotten really clear about this is who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I find is what also keeps people dating too long is if they're feeling really lonely and desperate. And, oh, I'm going to lose weight when I get in a relationship. Oh, I'd really like to try golf or pickleball, and I'll do it when I get in a relationship. So their life is not full enough for them. They don't
But
have
not only
enough
that,
interests for themselves. I know
right?
I watched your face.
Well, because I'm cringing because I'm like, oh, it's an interesting dichotomy. But the thing is, if we are going to save all those things until we get into a relationship, think of all the pressure you're putting on that partner and on the relationship, all the things you're going to do then that you're not doing now.
Yes.
There's an insanity there. And yes, definitely agree. It's like, and that's the other part is do those things now, because who knows, by doing the things now, you might meet somebody in the same arena, which you didn't plan to do anyway.
Yeah.
But that whole feeling of just like, oh, when they show up, then I'll do all the stuff. It's like, no, because the thing is, I mean, just on the health one, the fitness one, and that's the goal. The people who wait till they meet someone to get fit is backwards, first of all, because you want to be your most attractive, don't you, when you're single, so you can meet somebody. Now, here's the key, though: you don't stop doing it once you get together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, oh, oh,
That's the other
yes.
side,
Oh, I'm going to cringe at that one. Oh, yeah.
right?
They do, because
Yeah,
they didn't do it for themselves. You did it for this outside reason. And it
yes,
doesn't stick when you do the outside reason. I know this for a fact for me. It just doesn't.
it is horrible. I mean, because again, it's like you basically you're false advertising in a way, because you're
Mhm.
basically presenting this perfect image of how good and how fit you look when you get together with them. The 6 months of relationship, you're like nothing like that anymore. You like let it all go, and so there's this sense of like you misrepresented yourself because you're not staying the same as you were when you met them. You changed afterwards.
I'll
So
tell
you're
you one
right.
of the biggest things I heard recently. This guy was telling me that he has all these interests.
Mm-hmm.
When he was dating his wife, she came and did all the things with him. Very soon, like within the first year after they got married, she stopped doing all of them. And he
Whoa.
finally said, "Why?" And she said, "I did it so you'd marry me."
See, that's something like blackmail.
That's what I said. I said, "What a betrayal."
Yeah. I mean, it's not literal blackmail, but it's that sense of just betraying them completely. It's like, why? I mean, because the thing is, I mean, you and I talk about relationships, and I believe we both hold the same values about it. It's the most intimate, safe, sacred, honest, authentic place. And when you lie to get there, that tends to go against the grain of what it was intended to be. Of course, maybe some people want relationships that way, in which case, why they're watching our videos anyway?
Probably not,
Probably not, right?
because they're going to totally disagree with what we're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah, just figure out who your authentic person is. And like I had talked about, I coached a guy for a while who's now been in a relationship for, it's been 3.5 years, who rides his bike 3,500 miles a year. So we
Mm-hmm.
put a picture of his bike and we talked about that in the profile. And then we very boldly said, I like riding alone. You don't even have to own a bicycle. You don't even have to ride a bike. And she does not. She doesn't even
Right.
own a bicycle, which is perfectly fine with both of them. So to think this is who I am, and this is fine if you don't do it. Where this man, it was really, he was so excited to meet somebody that wanted to do all these things that he did. And then it turned out she really didn't.
That's the thing. Yeah.
No.
And it's funny because I mean I've seen dating profiles of some really good looking women out there, and living on the coast in California. Sometimes you get the ones who are like water sports and surfing. That's not me.
No.
And I'm like, I wouldn't even try to do that with them. It's like, no, don't even put me there. So I don't even click on them because I know what can end up happening. It's like I'm not going to play that. I know
Yes.
myself well enough.
Well, and that's me about camping. Blech. I think there's no
Yeah,
social redeeming thing about camping in me.
no,
I get why people do it. But if you're a camper and you want somebody to come with you, keep you warm, it is not me. I'll be waving at you from the hotel window.
Well, that's glamping, which works.
Yeah, that's so me. I mean, I'm happy to go out and get icky during the day, but I don't sleep out on the ground. I don't take showers outside. I mean, none of that is fun for me. And why would I want to do it if it's not fun? And I am this happy person most of the time. And I got to tell you, I'd be such a crab if I was having to take a shower in cold water or not shower for 3 days. Bleh. It's just not me. It's not
Right.
me. And what I've learned is I don't have to apologize for that. I can say it out loud. I'm excited that you want to do that. I would not want it. Is
Mm-hmm.
that important to you to have a partner that wants to do that? Because it's important to me to have a partner that likes staying in hotels. It doesn't have to be shishi foo-foo, even though I'm happy to do that.
Yeah.
But I want unlimited hot water. I want extra towels and extra pillows. I'm really
Exactly.
clear about that. And I
Yeah.
say it with a nice smile, just like I'm doing it now, so that if I'm not a match for you, we wouldn't even get started. So we wouldn't have to have this conversation about, oh my gosh, one of us is so unhappy.
Right.
Do we break up or not? The other man I talked to, this has been such a fun thing because I'm talking to all these interesting men that not necessarily, I'm meeting talking to lots that aren't a match, but I'm learning lots of interesting things that he actually, well, I'm going to say this and not remember the name. I can publicize it for him. He wrote a book because he sees the mistakes he made in his marriage that he thinks he could have not gotten divorced, but because of all the things he owns that he did. So now he wrote a book about, hey, men, don't do this instead. You might be able to save your marriage. And I thought, well, that is so cool. But he has kids. So I was like, yeah, that's not going to happen. But it was fascinating to talk to him. And he brought up a lot of the points about that they hadn't really talked about. I like working a lot. Wow, I'm unhappy being a mom without feeling like I have a husband to support me. Is there a way to negotiate this? And that's the kind of thing he talks about in his book. So
Right.
that's the thing people don't do. They're like, oh, I can't ask that. Oh, I can't say that. Oh my gosh. But it's who you are. So you really need to say that.
Absolutely. And again, back to this point, like, I mean, I'm hammering this point persistently to get this point clear, is by knowing what you want up front and really choosing what you want up front, it's so much easier to say no to those people who you would just date for convenience for 6 months and then go, this is not the one, and then you walk away.
Yeah.
So, especially if you're, well, I say if you're over 40, I'm like, if you're over 30 and you don't want to waste your time, because some people are like, I'll just date and date. And I know some of my clients were like that, where there'd be serial daters and they'd be in a relationship and they'd be out of one for maybe a week and be in the next one, and then out of it for a week and then the next one. And it's like, no, you need first of all, and we talk another topic. We'll go into another point, which we've talked about before, about the relationship with yourself comes first anyway. So you've got to spend more than a week on your own to get to know who you are before you start choosing who you want to be with.
Yes.
And so that's how long until you stop dating. I mean, it's really kind of a trick question. It's like, how clear do you need to be about who you are before you start dating someone? That's kind of the long-winded version of it in the other way, because for most people, you stop dating them when they don't match who you want anymore, or I should say, when you discover who they really are and it doesn't match who you want.
Yes. Because
That's
that's
really
the
important.
other thing. I appreciate everybody wants to put their best foot forward. I'm
Mm-hmm.
okay with that. I really like that. Whatever your best foot is, I want it to still be authentically you. And I
Yes.
realize there's going to be layers. I'm okay with that too, which is why these people who say I'm in love after a month or 2 months,
After the
I
first
know
date.
it can, yes, yes,
Sorry.
you really don't know them and they
Right.
don't know you. And I think that's a really big red flag.
Mm-hmm.
So what things do you need to know about somebody that you know that they would fit you, or it's okay enough that they don't? Like, I'm amazed at the people nowadays, and it's happening a couple of times with these different political views, and they're still fine with agreeing to disagree. I've been so holding out hope that I could meet somebody that's been doing that, and I finally did, two different couples. Because if you have this big boundary about I can't at all, then you need to say that when you're talking to them, not in your profile, please.
Right.
But when you're talking, this is my conservative view. This is my liberal view. This is my very left view. This is why I voted for this person. And I can't be with somebody who doesn't. We'll be upfront about it.
Mm-hmm. And we'll cover more of this when we come back, by the way. We'll take a break. But
Yes,
definitely,
we'll have lots more to talk about how
even
long
with,
until you stop dating them. It's such a great topic.
yeah. See you in a
We'll be
minute.
right back.
If the world fades to black and white, well, I wouldn't mind. No, I would not cry, 'cause you are the rainbow in my sky. If the seas took us all the way, well, I wouldn't mind. No, I would not pray if you are the ship sailing.
We're back.
And we're back talking about how long until you're going to stop dating them. This is Barry and Christine with Let's Talk About Dating.
Yes. Part 2 or second half.
Part 2, continuing with our
Yes.
series. Yes. So, part of what I know we need to talk about is when it's time to leave.
Hmm.
So, if you've done your due diligence and you know who you are and you've talked with them about who you are and you've decided that you're going to have enough in common that you're going to get to know each other and you're going to start dating, and then big things show up, big differences, big things that make you uncomfortable, both men and women. I mean, certainly women were more doing the MRI scan. How do we feel? How do we feel? How do we feel about you? How do we think you're feeling about us? Because we think we can read your mind. And if there's something that's making you uncomfortable or worried, it's important to say. I mean, put on your Wonder Woman boots and open your mouth and say, "Wow, this is making me uncomfortable," or "Wow, I'm kind of worried about this," or "I'm not sure about this. What do you think?" And
Right.
see what their reaction is, because their reaction is going to tell you as much as their words. You know, if they get, "What are you talking about?" and "That's not what I did," and "I can't believe," well, bye-bye. But if it's like, "Really? Wow, I'm confused. I didn't mean to do that." Both men and women need to say, "Could I have had a part in this making them feel uncomfortable? Or is it just them?" Because
Right.
sometimes it is just them. And we need to honor that it's just them. And is it okay enough, or do we need to leave?
Yeah. This is the thing that I mean. This the premise we're talking about here really is about before you get too far in versus break up after a relationship of 3, 4, 5, 10 years.
Oh,
So just we're talking about in this context. I would suggest that 90% of this stuff would be avoided by what we've already said, which is to do the work first to get to know yourself, what you really want, and get that sort of clarity before you even meet anybody, because that way it helps you navigate through rather than just going, oh, they're cute, let me date them and see what happens. Then, oh, that didn't work, let me date them and see if that's cute. You know, that sort of pattern. So those things that cause the clarity inside to leave,
mm,
oftentimes are things that were not expected or weren't on your list. So yes, there's going to be certain things that will happen, or things you'll discover, or things they will say, or ways that you'll feel, or the way that it will mistreat you, that can happen too, that will say, okay, enough, I need to leave. Now, if it's on the extreme case of being in a place where, the person was in perfect behavior and then they start abusing you 3 months in, that's like, okay, fast exit, no argument, just get yourself out, take care of yourself, and, get clear about that. But the other ones, oftentimes what happens is you discover through the process of going, that doesn't work. Right? That was something you didn't have on your list. So it can become feedback. So, okay, let me add one more thing to my list. Get clear what I do need. Because there can be a gift in this relationship or this dating experience where you need to leave. However, there's value in what you've learned so far. So you use that and take it in versus repeating the same thing again and again. And this is the thing, is that even though we're talking about how long until, it's also about what are the criteria that you basically need to have and also what you need not to have, so to speak. So you can say, this doesn't work and I need to move on. So lots of pieces of the puzzle that we're talking about here that hopefully people will get ideas that will expand their view of what they can choose when they get in a relationship.
I so agree with you, Barry, that often what we're doing is we're explaining a variety of options, that not everyone's going to fit everybody that's listening. Hopefully one or two fits each person that's listening. I mean, that's really what even though some of our advice is general, it has to be general because we're trying to help all the listeners and watchers that listen to our podcast. And yet it's really specific advice that if you feel it resonates, oh, I had never thought of it that way, or, oh, that's such a good idea for me, then just try it. Try it with the next couple people that you go out with. Try doing this homework ahead of time, because it really is homework to get clear about who you want and who you are. It's not something you can just do by the seat of your pants and like, oh, I'm going to just know them when I see them. That doesn't work very well for most people. And I'm going to sound like Dr. Phil. And how's that working for you? Because it probably isn't. And that might be why you're single and listening to us.
Yep. And I've been there and done that. I'm living proof that it doesn't work that way.
Sad, because wouldn't it be great if we would just know, if we just like be drawn together magnetically because we think we have the right chemistry for each other? No.
I've had that happen more than one time where I was like, oh, it's so perfect. We fit together. It's such a great joy. And then 3 months later, it's like, what were we thinking?
I know. What were you thinking? It's not even just a little thing. You're like, why didn't I notice this in the beginning?
Well, that may be the problem. Maybe we weren't thinking, though.
Yeah.
More transparency.
We were thinking clearly, and adult, our teenager, our excited, juicy teenager was the person that got in the driver's seat for Ben.
Even though we weren't in their teens anymore.
But I've certainly found that it's what bubbles up to the surface when we get enamored with somebody, when we feel sexual attraction to somebody, when we're really excited and can't think about anything else but them. That is so that 16-year-old kid. It just is. And I don't want her to go away. I like that she's there and she's really fun to play with in a relationship, but she cannot be in charge in the beginning. And that was the switch. Saying, okay, hun, you can sit in the back seat and I'm going to give you something fun to do. And I'm going to put this grown-up ass adult woman in the driver's seat.
Exactly.
I won't want her to send her away. I want her to show up, but just not in the picking process.
That's so true. That's the thing, is most of us think that we know what we're doing, but what we forget is that there's many parts of us doing that thinking. So the 16-year-old and the adults, the little kid, all the parts of us.
Oh.
And it's kind of the thing about who you choose to drive the car. It's a great metaphor.
You want your 12-year-old driving your car around? Probably not.
Probably not.
No. It is really a challenge too, because we think about how we were raised and what kind of messages we got and what kind of messages we've gotten in our past relationships. And it is a lot of resorting. And that was the thing I found with my profile, especially the first time. I'm much better at it now. But when I first was using online dating in 2001, every time I go out with someone, I go, oh, I need to change that in my profile. Oh, I need to update that. Oh, I need to be more clear with that. When you said, oh, when something shows up and you're like, why did that show up? Because I wasn't clear about this is what I want instead. So if you're going to use online dating, really clearly saying in a lovely way, this is what I'm looking for, then generally, even if the other person isn't paying attention because they think your picture's cute, you're still paying attention to ask
Yes.
the right questions. I mean, I think that's, you have to be looking out for yourself all the time.
Yeah. If I'd recommend this one thing, I mean, you know, what's my dating profiles in this talk, but it's relevant in this conversation, is definitely in your dating profile, it's recommended to put down in positive terms, like you said, like putting it in nice ways, but put it in positive terms, what it is you clearly define you either want or need to have in partnership.
Yeah.
So the person who may go beyond looking at your pictures will go, oh, I see that matches or it doesn't match. And you go, okay, clear. It saves a lot of weeding out.
It really does. It really does. And I appreciate when men put in their profiles what it is they're looking for and the kind of things that interest them generally in their life and the kind of things they want to do with a partner. So I can read it and go, yeah, that's me, or no, that's not me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm as we're talking, I'm thinking, I need to update my profile.
It's an ongoing process, I think. It really is.
Transparency.
And I think it's very important that you say it, because I've only been doing Facebook dating for a couple of weeks, so I haven't made any adjustments yet, but I'm sure I will. And I sure did a lot to all my other profiles before I met my late husband. I was constantly, after a couple of dates with somebody, I go, oh yeah, I need to change that. I bet that wasn't very clear. And then when my husband saw my profile, he was like, oh, I'm those things, and oh, I want those things. So it was like my perfect shopping list. You know, it was really perfect. But before that, it
Right.
wasn't clear. I have to admit, I wasn't clear. I wasn't clear inside, and I wasn't clear saying it in my profile, and even in the questions I would ask men. And now I'm much more clear. But
Yeah.
so far, nobody's complained about how I ask them the questions. I'm really careful about, I'm just curious, because I really am just curious to get to know them. At the same time, I'm saying, is this a match for me? Because they don't know. They don't know me. I know me really well. And I've gotten to know me even better by doing this kind of homework.
Yeah. And it is the thing is like we said at the beginning, that is really getting clear about what it is you want and to know who you are first, because that really is. I mean, it's kind of like we keep beating the same drum, because it's fundamental to all the stuff we talk about is really the relationship with yourself first. And so knowing what you want and being visible in your dating approach, whether it is through dating apps or the dating sites, or when you meet somebody in the early dates that you go on with that person, to know that they know is that they learn what you are choosing. They learn what it is you really want. So that even in the first few dates, you go, okay, thank you for the time we spent. I'm really glad we enjoyed each other. And I'm clear that we don't have matching values or whatever that is. It's like, nice to meet you. Wish you good luck in your dating, and I'm going to go my own way. And so that how long until you start dating, ideally, is going to be shortened dramatically, so that you don't spend a lot of time in dating scenarios that last months and months and months before you discover what doesn't work.
Yes.
So yes, what we talked about, dating profile information, knowing what you want and being clear about it up front, means your dating process becomes much more expedient.
Yes. And you keep getting more clear about it, because if in fact, I mean, there are people who are liars and really good liars, you know, psychopaths and sociopaths. The general population is pretty transparent if you're paying attention. So it doesn't have to go on for 6 months and then all of a sudden both of you decide that you're not a match. Because I find that if it's gone on for months, people really tend to get discouraged then. And it's hard on them because you invested all this time. So that's why when you say, oh gosh, I can't ask that, that's the thing you need to ask. That's a good telltale thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing is we have the inner guidance. We just tend to just stop ignoring it.
And also not even just asking them, but revealing about who you are. You know, that's the thing that happened with that man's wife, when she just kept lying about that she really liked all those things. I know as a guy, I hear you sigh about it. It's just so hard. And they stayed married a long time.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just thinking back, and I have a hard time not being honest.
Yes.
That
like, story that you told last week was so honest and open and lovely. So I know this about you, that you're the honest as the day is long, and me as well. And we can be really good examples to encourage people. It turns out so much better in the end for both of you if you're honest.
Which just gave me a thought. Here's
Yes.
one piece some people may not like,
Mhm.
is that by doing what we're recommending, you may spend more time being single than you thought. And for some people, they'd rather be dating even bad dates and be occupied with somebody else than to spend time looking in the mirror and being with themselves. I got 3 words for you. Get over it. Because the thing about, I mean, this is the thing, is that in this work, that if you want an amazing relationship, you're going to have to be an amazing relationship partner. And if you're spending time being distracted by dates that don't fill you up and don't match what you want, and you don't feel fulfilled, and you keep finding yourself being betrayed, that isn't you becoming more of yourself. That's simply delaying the inevitable, which is going to find you're going to have to face yourself and learn who you really are and value who you are. So you raise your standards to meet the right person. So that the shorter you keep those dates that don't work, or should I say dating experiences that don't work, so you can be free to know yourself better, the sooner you're going to find the one you want to be with anyway.
Oh, amen. 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 You're preaching to the choir, Mr. Berry.
Well, I hope
And
them out there can see this.
well,
You know,
because the thing is, I have people tell me out loud, and I think I might have had moments in my life when I felt like this. Look at all the people it eliminates. Uh-huh. All the people that aren't right for you.
yes,
Because all you really are looking for is one.
is that one?
You really don't want a bunch. You
Yeah.
just need one. So how nice if you can move past the ones that aren't the right for you. So then we go, okay, but what are the things that aren't right? So mine was, oh, I dated this very specific physical looking, and I've mentioned more than once that my late husband was none of that. But when I decided that I was going to not pay as much attention to that, I was really going to pay much more attention to the inside. What a concept. I married this amazing person that became my physical type because his insides were such a match for me. So when you're doing your deciding whether or not to see them a second time or a third time, it can't just be built on their physicalness unless there's something off-putting, if there's, for women especially. It just can't be all that. And even for guys, I would think if you can't have a conversation with her, I don't care how beautiful she is and what a great body she has. What's the point if you can't have a conversation with her?
Absolutely. Been there, done that, doesn't work.
I mean, I really wanted to hear it from your lovely male mouth because I would think you'd feel that way as men.
Yeah.
And you can't speak for all men, but you certainly could
no,
speak
no.
for you.
I mean, let me be clear. I may be one of the rare ones amongst the men who don't care just about only the surface. It's like, no, I like depth as well, and connection and communication. And again, one reason why I think Clubhouse works so well, because people get to know each other by their voice, not by how they look, which changes the paradigm. And I'm not saying it's the right way or the wrong way, just another way. And so for me, it's like, yes, I do notice good-looking women more frequently than I notice women who aren't necessarily as good-looking. But the thing is, I also notice how quickly there's nothing else there once that's what I see there's there. When they don't have a way to communicate, there's nobody home, so to speak.
Yeah.
Sorry to say it that way, but I've been around enough women who are gorgeous, and all I want to do is just stand next to them, enjoy their aura, so to speak, because I don't want to do anything with them because there's no communication, and I literally have walked away from what would be the most amazingly looking woman who has nothing that I feel connected to. And part of me goes, and when the first time that happened, our partner was like, "Something wrong with me?" It's like, no, that very quickly, no. It's like I'm choosing something different. You know.
So important, so important. And if you're not a person that wants depth, that's not criticism. Sure, then go for somebody who also doesn't have depth, because somebody who has depth is not going to be interested in you either. But if you have depth, if you are a deep person and you want to be able to have deep, meaningful, let you see about me and I want to see about you conversations, then it can't just be about looks. I mean, how nice if you like how they look too, it has to be the depth part.
Yeah. Which would then shorten your dating process.
It does. It really does. It certainly has helped me, and it sounds like it's helped you too. And hopefully it'll help the people that are watching this. Not that I was going to say waste your time, but that you're using your time effectively. If every date you go on, I tell people the two things you're going to get out of this date that you have control over is you're going to get to know more about you every time, and you're going to get to meet a new person and learn about them. Whether or not you want to have a second date is irrelevant to these two things, because you have no control over whether or not they're going to want a second date, but you could learn about you and them. So if you go with that in mind, you will feel successful and you won't feel discouraged, and dating can then be fun. People are like,
God.
it can be fun?
Fun?
Fun. Yeah, it can be fun. I mean, everybody tells me by the third call, sometimes the second call, the third call when we're working together, oh my gosh, it's fun again, or it's fun now. I've never even had fun before. I go, yep, that's my goal.
Yep. And we can help you with that.
Yes. This is if you want to have more fun with your dating. If your dating is not fun, then you need to talk to one of us, because we will help you make it fun again, right?
And successful.
And successful. And finally meet the person that's really your match.
Yes.
Because that's the goal. That's really the goal. No matter what your match is, we can help you find them by help working on yourself. So the way to get a hold of me to do that work is my website is www.theperfectcatch.com, and you click on what's holding you back from love, and then we can have a complimentary, private, in-depth conversation about what might not be working and what has happened in the past and what you'd prefer to happen in the future. You could also send me an email at christine@theperfectcatch.com, and you can see my videos and read my blogs and my newsletter on Facebook and LinkedIn and Pinterest and Instagram and Twitter and YouTube.
Nicely done.
I'm getting better at remembering them, huh?
Yeah, that's great.
And I'm working on a book so I can have a book like Barry does pretty soon.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
So how do they get a hold of you, Barry?
Well, similar to Christine, if you want to get some help, definitely go to my website, which is barryselby.com. On the front page, there's a button that says Let's Connect. And with that, you can click in, we can set up a time to talk, and I can help you get some clarity where you are, where you want to go, and how you want to get there, and if we want to work together. So my gift to you is complimentary. Also, my website is my offerings, programs, video teachings as well. Speaking of which, you can also find my videos on YouTube. And in fact, all my social media except for Instagram is Barry Selby. So Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Clubhouse, Twitter, etc., is all Barry Selby, except Instagram, which is the real Barry Selby. And I do have a lot of followers. That's starting to grow thankfully quite big because of my Clubhouse activities. But I do post a lot more, what I'm looking for, provocative memes there as well. So make sure you follow me on social media, but definitely reach out if you want some support. My website, get a conversation with me. If you want to email me, you can email Barry at barryselby.com, but I'd rather you go through my website because that has my calendar on it. So that we can get some help.
Yes. And you'll feel much more successful and less discouraged about your dating life, right?
Indeed. There we go.
So we'll be back next Thursday at 1 o'clock Pacific and 4 o'clock Eastern and all the times in between with another exciting, and Gigi will be there too. Another provocative, exciting subject. Yes, she makes a very drive-by kind of appearance on our series.
Yes. So we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Yep. Take care of yourselves.
Bye for now.
Bye.